When I was a teenager, in my teens, coming up to 20, I assumed that, from what I could see, life meant that I would meet a girl, fall in love, and get married and have children. And then in Ireland, that would be the end of that. I mean, that was it. Life was over. I never really thought very much about the kind of work I wanted to do. I didn't really focus on any particular work. And I then found myself in my 20s moving to England because of work and beginning to train to be a psychiatric nurse. And finding out this was a place I liked being in this type of work. So I could see that mental health issues were attractive, and I liked working in that environment. And I liked the other people I met and the conversations we had. And at the same time, what I had with me all the time was, from the age of about maybe 16, I started reading existential philosophy. I became very involved in issues like life and death and meaning, and the meaning of life, and decided when I was about 16, I think, that I probably wouldn't live much beyond 60. I decided that. Now this meant, so then when I met someone, met a Swedish woman in Ireland, we got married and I had started a family, and this really, really changed me. So being a father became extremely important to me. I still had the idea that I would not have a very long life. That was very clear in my mind. And I think that I got that from the existentialist thinking that I was involved in. With the death of my youngest son, it was a huge change. Suddenly, nothing was straight anymore. But I couldn't depend that next year I would know anything about, I wouldn't know anything now about next year, because that changed everything for me. I realized actually, when I was coming into my 50s and touching my 60s, that I actually enjoyed being alone. And it was the first time I could really say to myself, you know, I like being on my own. I've always thought I needed company, I needed other people, and now I discover I don't. I'm perfectly happy on my own. And then when I started making a career in Sweden, an academic career, I had a regular income, and then I became a freelance academic and freelance consultant. My bank began chasing me to do what all Swedes do, which is to buy a pension insurance. And I insisted I would not buy a pension insurance because I wouldn't be alive at 65. And then 65 came, and then 70 came, and 75 came, and I'm still here. I'm almost disappointed. This is not what I expected. So I've come into this last phase of my life very unprepared for being here, and realized that no one ever told me that one of these days you'll grow old. And you know, your health will not be the same as it used to be, which is true. And I had a very bad period last year with my health. I was in and out of hospital a lot. Found that there was no way I could have prepared for this stage of my life, because other than to be here and to try and deal with it as it is from day to day. I am an old man who needs help to get in and out of a taxi. My mind can think of doing it, my body will not be able. And that's a really difficult time of life, when you realize that what you would like to do and what you are able to do is not the same. There is a strong theory in the Gestalt world called the paradoxical theory of change, which means that the best way for something new to happen is not to do anything, but to accept how you are as you are, and change will happen by itself. I've been trying more and more to simply accept that I can't do things that I thought I could do. And I used to like traveling, I used to like flying and so on. I don't like it anymore, it's too much trouble. Going through security in an airport drives me completely crazy. Such a total waste of time. And I can really feel myself saying, I do not have the time to go through with this nonsense now. I find myself caught again in the existential question of what is the meaning? What is the meaning of growing old? What is the meaning of not being able to do what I used to be able to do? I always come back with the answer, the meaning is that this is how things are. This is how I am. Live with it. Because I've looked closely at many people, writers and musicians and that I have admired, when they found that they were losing their powers, they committed suicide. I've decided, no matter how meaningless life becomes, I am happier with life deciding it's leaving me than me deciding I'm leaving life. So I'm still here. And I could be here for I don't know how long, but I'm still here. That's the way it is. Yeah. Find a balance between life is what you make it and letting life happen to you. If you can do both, move between those two so that you can surprise yourself with discovering something you hadn't thought of. I think that's probably the main point. And the second one is, and this really I've learned from my youngest son, my dead son. If something like a death occurs in the closest family, don't try to get over it. Grieve and mourn for as long as you need. And the third point would be, speaking from as a Gestalt practitioner, see if you can let your professional life and your personal life match each other. So that who you are and what you do is very close. 3 things. I think the thing that for me is the strongest is that we love, I think almost all Irish people love expressing themselves. It can be through words or music, usually sometimes both together. But there are some Irish music, and I only have to hear it and I start crying instantly, no matter where I am, because it carries so much of the spirit of what is being Irish to me. The other thing is, I think, for example, with words, I cannot stop myself playing with words. It drives my friends crazy. I've had to work very hard here today because we're speaking English and you speak Russian. I've been working very hard not to play with words too much. And it's very difficult. Very, very difficult. I have also driven one or two translators completely crazy by going into strange combinations of things and references they never heard of and so on, because they excite me. So that's, I think, part of it. And the other thing is we are not being afraid of conflict in order to be who we are. So we've been fighting the English for nearly 900 years, and we're still fighting the English. So now I cannot help but inform you all that a few weeks ago, on Ireland's National Day, we beat England in rugby. We won the championship, and we won what's called the Triple Crown, and we beat England on Ireland's National Day. And you have no idea what a powerful, powerful event that was. I sat at home on my own crying when I read the result. And I knew any moment now my sisters are going to email me or phone me or text me. And sure enough, they did. It was just this thing of, yeah, we beat them. It's a real sense of we. We beat England, not Ireland beating, we beat England in rugby. I don't even play rugby, but we beat them in rugby. So that's a very Irish thing. In fact, when all the books I have written that have been published, on the back cover is a photograph of me, and it says, Irish by birth, culture and conviction. By birth means I was born in Ireland, so I am Irish. Irish culture in terms of music and literature and art, that's part of my Irishness. And conviction is, I have decided to be Irish. I have actually, not just, I wasn't only born there, I decided I want to be, I like being Irish. I'm making the choice of being Irish. It's not just something that happened to me. I have made that choice. Which is a very special, it's anyway special to me. In some countries, like in America, for example, and maybe Russia, people don't say openly where they are in terms of politics. In Ireland, you have to, you must. We take sides in everything. No matter what's happening, we will be for or against, and immediately separate into the for group and the against group. And there will always be argument and conflict between the two. Now, I live in Sweden, and if there's one thing Swedes are allergic to, it's conflict. They cannot understand conflict, because conflict is irrational and emotional, and they are two things that are really difficult for Swedes to tolerate, anything that is too emotional. Because I'm an emotional person, I have always had difficulties in Sweden. Now, I worked a lot in Italy. The Italians love emotion. And the more emotion you show, the better. So sometimes it could be very difficult with my Irish emotionality coming from Sweden and going to Italy and feeling instantly free and at home, and then coming back to Sweden and closing in again. I think wars seem to be because people value their cultures in different ways and do not value difference. I know I'm Irish. I always find it difficult to be in an English environment. And I try to be curious about it rather than judgmental. But it's very difficult, even though I know the subject, I'm an academic in it, I write about it. It's still difficult because there is an emotional aspect to our national identity. For example, if someone says to me, I'm proud of being Russian, and that means I don't like anything that is not Russian. This is when it becomes a problem. But if I can say as a person, I'm proud of being Russian, you're proud of being Chinese, fine. We are both proud of something which is our identity. But the identification means that we begin to look for difference. We begin to look for things which distinguish us from others, rather than seeing things which could also be, which connect us. And let me give you an example. In the north of Ireland, where I work, and where there's a long history of conflict, there's a group of people called loyalists. And they are called loyalists because they're loyal to the Queen of England. And that's their identification. And then the people who are Republican Irish, and they are loyal to the idea of being Irish. And I once said since I am also Republican Irish, that we are both we Republican Irish and the loyalists have loyalty as a value. It connects us. They said, no. Their loyalty is different than our loyalty. And then they began to fight about the meaning of loyalty. And that's when it becomes complex, because the identification has taken over. Being loyal to a united Ireland had a better value than being loyal to the Queen. But they couldn't really see that they were both emotions of feeling loyal to something. From a Gestalt perspective, what we can do is raise awareness that it is still there and it is having an impact, and ask people to choose whether they want that impact or not. And if they say, we don't want the impact, then you're going to need to change. But you have to decide what change you make. I can't do it for you.